Here's something I've been thinking about. What are you allowing in your life today that you would have never accepted a few years ago? Because not everything that changes us all at once. Sometimes it happens so gradually, we don't even realize that we've changed. We just got used to it. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." There's something important in that verse. Paul warns us about conforming, and conforming usually doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly. A little compromise here, a little excuse here. Something that once bothered you doesn't bother you quite as much anymore. Eventually, what used to feel wrong just feels normal. Think about how powerful that word is, normal. Normal doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Normal doesn't necessarily mean right. Normal just means we've gotten used to it. And human beings can get used to almost anything. We can get used to living exhausted. We can get used to a bad attitude. We can get used to talking negatively. We can get used to ignoring our spouse. We can get used to spending more time staring at a screen than looking at people sitting beside us. We can get used to bitterness. We can get used to compromise. We can even get used to being distant from God. And somewhere along the way, we just stopped asking, is this the way I want to live? And we started saying, well, that's just the way things are. But maybe they don't have to be. One of the most dangerous things in life isn't always so obvious. Sometimes it's something unhealthy that has been around long enough. You just stop noticing it. Think about walking into somebody's house. Maybe there's a candle burning or food cooking, or maybe they've got a dog. You immediately notice the smell. But after sitting there for a while, you don't smell it anymore. The smell didn't disappear, you just adjusted to it. And I think that happens in our lives too. There are things that we once recognized immediately that we eventually learn to live around. Maybe it's constant stress. Maybe it's resentment. Maybe it's how you talk to yourself. Maybe it's a relationship that continually pulls who you are away from God. Maybe it's something completely different. The problem didn't disappear. You just adapted to it. That's why Scripture repeatedly tells us to examine ourselves. Psalm 139 says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." David understood something. Sometimes we are the last person to recognize what is happening inside of us. So he invited God to point it out. God, show me what I've stopped seeing. That is a powerful prayer. And it can also be an uncomfortable one, because sometimes God will reveal something that we've been calling normal that he never intended us to live with. So today, try and ask yourself one question. What have I gotten used to that I probably shouldn't be used to? Don't make a list of 20 things. Find one attitude, one habit, one distraction, one excuse, one relationship pattern, one area where you know you've slowly lowered the standard. And instead of condemning yourself over it, just acknowledge it. Because awareness is where change begins. You cannot change something that you refuse to see. Here's the thought I want you to carry with you today. Just because something has become normal in your life doesn't mean it belongs there. Maybe today God isn't asking you to completely rebuild your life. Maybe he's simply asking you to notice something again. Something you stopped noticing a long time ago. And once you see it, you can finally decide what you're going to do about it. Closing question for you. What's one area of your life where you think people can become too comfortable with something that really isn't good for them? Share yours below. Someone reading your answer may recognize something they stopped noticing in their own life. Thanks, guys. This is Thoughtful Thursday, Motivational Moments. Have a great day.